Okay, welcome back to Tech Tip Tuesday. Today, I'm going to walk you through the process that I use for writing patterns. I am a ghostwriter and tech editor, and I write about 150 patterns a year. So I've had to figure out ways to get very efficient with it and make sure everything is very consistent and correct on the first try. And so I figured I'd share that with you today in the hopes that you find it helpful. So the first thing that I'm going to do once I get the layout finalized, right, I'm actually done designing. I know what sizes and all of that I want. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do all the quilt math. I'm going to get my cutting table and fabric requirements table fully complete so that I can assign all of my labels there and it's done. And then I just reference that back as I'm writing. This is in contrast to what I think a lot of people do, which is they'll do kind of the math for one size, right? And then they'll add additional sizes later and then do some more math, right? And then they might tweak some things. And that's a really great way to ensure that you have math errors because you forget to update other pieces of it if you make a change later. So do it all at the front. This is 100% the best way to guarantee that everything is correct and error-free from the get-go. If the thought of sitting down and doing a crap ton of math all at once for 6 different sizes or whatever happens to be in your pattern makes you feel ill, I have got you. I've got a tool for this. It's called Mathless Quilts. It is an online web app software that you can just log into and build your quilt pattern out, and it spits out all of your fabric requirements and cutting instructions optimized for minimizing fabric. Super, super slick to use. If you hate quilt math, make sure you check it out. The second thing that I'm going to do is kind of sketch out the way that I want it organized, what order I want to do the techniques in, and just kind of the flow of the pattern in a broad sense. Now, you might be thinking from, elementary school, high school, I got to sit there and do an outline. I don't want to write an outline. Those aren't useful. That's not what I'm doing here, right? I don't actually write anything down, but I will take, 20 minutes or 10 minutes or however long it takes me to just kind of sit there and look at the design and figure out the methods and process that I'm going to use and figure out what order it is best to put that stuff in before I just sort of dive in and start. That prevents me from writing an entire section only to realize that I should have put this other section in first, and then I've got to change step reference numbers and bump the layout around. It's just completely unnecessary. So just kind of having that master plan kind of thought through before you dive in is really, really helpful. And then the third thing I typically will do in kind of sequence, right? So it consists of 3 different steps, but I will do that all for one section, and then I will move it on to the next section generally. Sometimes I will just kind of do all of these steps for the entire pattern in a linear fashion, but I would say more often than not, I kind of do it by section. So this third step that kind of happens in pieces is writing the instructions, and it consists of the actual words and steps, right? Writing out all of that out, drawing the diagrams that go with them, and then doing the page layout. So there's kind of 3 pieces there, and I will typically work in that order for one section. So if I've got a section about making flying geese, I'm going to write out all the words for it, draw all the diagrams for it, and then do my page layout for that section before I move on to the next section. Does that make sense? This helps me keep a nice mix of not just writing and not just drawing, which keeps my brain a little bit more engaged because I can flip back between things rather than having to do a whole bunch of one thing that I get bored with too fast. And then once you've kind of completed that process for each section of your pattern, you're pretty much there, right? There's some things that we need to talk about at the end, right? Cover photos, descriptions of your pattern, if you've got a story to go with that, which is a really great thing to include. If you've got finishing instructions or, about the cover quilt, tester acknowledgements, all of that stuff, go for it, right? But once you've written your first pattern, generally people will just kind of copy and paste those sections and then make any modifications necessary. So those are kind of like freebies, right? Once you've done all the hard work of the quilt math, the outline, and the instructions for your pattern, you're pretty much done because you're just going to copy and paste in those other sections and then make a couple quick tweaks, which is totally fine. That's what every pattern writer that has kind of gotten this down to something that is working for them, that they don't have to spend hours and hours and hours on, is doing. We're not starting from scratch. Why start from scratch if you don't have to? So I hope you found that helpful. That's kind of the process that I use. Getting a workflow that kind of keeps you from getting stuck is a really, really important part of efficiency. And this is how I figured out to do it for writing quilt patterns, both my own and all of the ones that I ghostwrite throughout the year. So give it a try. If you're not in love with kind of the process that you have for writing quilt patterns, if you feel like you're constantly getting stuck or you just dread the process, give this process a try. I think you will find it helpful. If you do, make sure you drop a comment in this video and let me know. I would love to hear if this is something that's really helpful to you. Alrighty, that's all I've got for today. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for another episode of Tech Tip Tuesday.